Welcome to Tracks Through Time. I'm your host and FreightWaves Deputy Editor, Brielle Jekyll, and I'm here to tell you about some of the most interesting stories throughout history in transportation and freight. And I'm here with Mary O'Connell, who is a fellow FreightWaves TV host, and today we are revisiting the rail industry again with a particularly harrowing tale. Hi, Mary. Thanks for coming back again as my favorite sidekick.
Thank you, Brielle, for having me. I mean, it involves the rail, so you immediately know that I'm here and I'm excited for it because last time we had a train heist, and this time, we've got a big hero. I'm very excited because this is the story that I don't know, so I could not be more happy to have story time with Brielle again.
Yeah, so this is a more lesser known story in the history of rail, but it is captivating all the same. So today our story focuses on bravery and heroism from the heartland of America in the late 19th century. And like you said, Mary, you've never heard of this. A lot of people haven't. So we're going to head to central Iowa, where a young girl's courage and determination saved countless lives. So prepare to be inspired as we delve into the incredible story of Catherine Carroll, or Kate, Shelley.
I mean, I'm personally really excited because, nothing really exciting comes out of Iowa except corn. No shade to Iowa. So I love that I love that we're going to have a story about it.
Actually, on a side note, our heroine today never left the state of Ohio except to visit the World's Fair one time.
Okay.
Well, she was actually born in Ireland and immigrated to the United States with her family when she was just 1 year old. The family settled near Honey Creek, a tributary of the Des Moines River in Iowa's Boone County, and they grew into a family of 7. So she was joined by 4 other siblings. Unfortunately, Kate's life took an unexpected turn when her father, the foreman of a section crew building tracks for the Chicago and Northwestern Railway, better known as CNNW, tragically passed away after a long battle with tuberculosis. And then the family was left devastated again a few months later when Kate's 11-year-old brother drowned in the Des Moines River. And her mother's health was failing. Kate, at just 15 years old, found herself shouldering all the responsibilities of the household and farm with no income. She was forced to drop out of school and take care of her family.
That's like a super depressing, first 15 years of your life, like your dad, your brother. And those are really sad and horrible ways to go too. Like that poor girl.
Life in the heartland of America in the 19th century was pretty rough and tumble all the time. But they did have a few happy years before tragedy struck. And then she worked very, very hard to take care of her family with her mother. She was a young woman of incredible tenacity and self-reliance, and she provided for her entire family while facing challenges of life on the frontier, which is so much harder than you can even imagine. But little did she know that her strength would soon be tested in a way that she could have never thought of. On the night of July 6, 1881, heavy thunderstorms swept through the region, causing a flash flood at Honey Creek. The powerful floodwaters washed away the timber supporting the trestle bridge that spanned the creek. A train crash echoed through the night, and it was Kate Shelley who heard the noise. Without any hesitation, she grabbed one of her late father's railroad lanterns and rushed towards the site of disaster. She was only 17 years old.
That is a lot to just be like, oh, I heard a train crash. I'm going to go grab a lantern and just walk over there as a 17-year-old because, I know that it's what you do and people need help, but also that's a lot. That is a lot.
Yeah, to have the tenacity, just to jump right out of bed and get to it is pretty remarkable for a girl of her age. And it just shows the tenacity that she held. 2 crew members had managed to cling onto the branches of a large tree near the wreckage, but 2 others were missing. The men in the tree were trapped, completely unable to descend due to the worsening flood conditions, so they're trapped in a tree as waters just ravage the ground below them. Realizing the imminent danger, Kate made a quick decision. She knew that an eastbound passenger train from Omaha was scheduled to pass through the area at midnight, and if she didn't reach the depot in time to warn the personnel about the collapsed bridge, another tragedy would befall Honey Creek, and it would be much worse than already happened. Armed with determination and her lantern, Kate embarked on a perilous journey. She trudged along the tracks, battling relentless rain and fierce winds. By the time she reached the bridge over the Des Moines River, her lantern extinguished, leaving her in total darkness. Undeterred, Kate dropped to her hands and her knees, and she crawled literally across the bridge with only flashes of lightning to guide her. And the river below was extremely treacherous, and sharp splinters dug into her skin, but she kept going. It did not break her resolve.
That is insanely, like, as an adult that has seen flash flooding firsthand, that is insanely stupid to run out in a flash flood, because you don't know when that's going to come and sweep you away, which isn't going to help anyone. But the fact that she even tried, because, you know, she had lived in Iowa, so she knew about the flash floods and how dangerous they got. So, like, that is, man, that is next level, like, tenacity and bravery.
Absolutely, I could not do it.
No.
So after what must have felt like an eternity, Kate finally rose to her feet and she sprinted for at least a mile along the tracks to reach the depot. Can you imagine, after all of that, sprinting an entire other mile?
No, I can't even sprint like a fourth of a mile or like half a mile or any. I don't sprint. So the fact that she's just like woke up after a train wreck, I mean, I guess adrenaline is fueling her, but dang.
I walked up the beach this weekend and I thought I was going to die. So sorry. So I digress. So exhausted and completely soaked to the bone, she shouted the news about the perilous situation at Honey Creek before she collapsed from just sheer exhaustion. She just collapsed on the ground, but her mission was accomplished and she had arrived just in time. So the people at the depot acted very swiftly, and they alerted another depot along the train's route to stop the impending disaster. The eastbound passenger train, which was carrying 200 people, they were able to stop it, which saved 200 people's lives and a potential catastrophe.
Like that makes almost all the splinters in your hands, and the fact that her lungs probably were like exploding and on fire, that 100% makes it worth it. That is an immense selfless act that she just did.
Absolutely. But that was only the start. Her journey was far from over. Once she kind of came to, she really insisted on joining the rescue party to help the stranded crew members at Honey Creek. So like you said, she's already exhausted, but, you know, probably elated that she was able to save 200 people. But now she's not done. She wants to keep going and make as big of a difference and save as many lives as she can. So she joins the rescue party to help the stranded crew members, and she leads the way. And she guided the group through the horrible conditions that she'd already just been through until they reached the site. And with their combined efforts, they managed to rescue 2 crew members who were clinging to the tree, the ones I mentioned before. But unfortunately, they did discover the lifeless body of another crew member all the way downstream, and a 4th was never found.
I mean, if anyone's going to know the way of the wreckage, it's going to be the person that came from it. But also, like, that is also incredibly dangerous for that rescue team, too, because you never know when more water is going to come and could potentially sweep them away, too.
Right. So that was her goal, was getting the group to the wreckage as fast as possible and as safe as possible. And honestly, it probably could have been a lot worse if she wasn't the one showing them where to go. I mean, those men clinging to the tree with the water rushing below didn't have much long. So
No.
The fastest route possible was ideal, and she got it done after collapsing from exhaustion right beforehand.
But also, like, if she was the only one like running, it's not like her and like a friend were running at 2:00 in the morning or whatever after this accident. Like, if she hadn't gone, then possibly all those 200 people and more could have potentially died as well, which that just goes to show the testament that, well, you know, one person's actions can have on a whole bunch of people.
Right. And so the accident itself would have been obviously those two men holding onto the tree would probably be lost, but the bridge was completely gone. So that those 200 people would have just drifted right off the tracks had they not known what had happened, that the bridge was, in ruin. But yeah, so she was able to save all those people. She was able to save those two crew members. Unfortunately, those other two were lost. But her selfless act of heroism really did not go unnoticed. Her story spread throughout the entire nation, and she became a symbol of courage and resilience, which is well-deserved. A lot of poems and songs were composed in her honor, and the passengers of the train she saved even collected funds as a gesture of gratitude. That's how thankful they were.
That is so nice. That is so, so, so sweet. I mean, they didn't have to do that, but also she didn't have to go run out in the middle of the night after she heard a train crash. So it's just truly like that positive circle of like what you put out, you get back kind of thing.
Life was hard and miserable then, but I guess it made for more resilient and helpful people.
Yeah, because I mean, truly, for the most part, you couldn't do anything on your own. You needed your neighbors, you needed your community, you needed people to help you make it better and survive.
I think her not never leaving Iowa is another good indication of what the time was like, because it was obviously, as we know, it was difficult to leave. So it just kind of really hones in on the life that she was living at the time, and how narrow her world was, but she was able to really make a big difference. And so for years afterwards, the passenger train actually continued to pass by her house. So she often waved to the travelers coming through. And sometimes the train would even stop so passengers could say a quick hello to her, so they would meet the famous heroine and she would shake hands.
That is so cool, and something that would absolutely never happen today. Like, you cannot tell me that Amtrak is going to stop in the middle of like Illinois or Iowa,
right
in the middle of nowhere, just so like someone can go meet that. Like, that is insanely cool, and that's just the hallmark of that time then.
And the train passed right through, through her yard almost, so she could see it from her house, and they could see her house from the railroad. So it was kind of an exciting. She was just a part of the culture of the area ever since then, because she stayed at the house. And the recognition didn't stop there. The Order of the Railway Conductors presented Kate with a gold watch and chain, and so she became a true American hero. And then in 1901, the CNNW honored Kate Shelley by building a new bridge over the Des Moines River, and officially named the Boone Viaduct, but it quickly became known as the Kate Shelley Bridge, or the Kate Shelley High Bridge. And that magnificent structure stands as one of the tallest double-track railroad bridges in North America.
That is so cool. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, and their website has a lot of information about her and her family and her story, which is really cool.
That is so cool. I love people like that are just like, that are the immediate helpers of like, they just jump in. They don't even think twice about it. Like they're ready to be there and be a helper, which is absolutely amazing.
Well, I also think that this is interesting, her being named, or the bridge being named after her, kind of just brings it into perspective when you think about all of the random landmarks that are named, or towns or roads, railroads, that are named with people's names. And you always wonder, where did this name come from? Like, I have no idea where half of the names in my town come from, because we're a very historic town. From like Revolutionary era, and it's like you want to it makes you stop and think like, who are these people and what are their stories? And I'm happy to have found out about Kate Shelley's.
I actually really like that. I mean, I know where a lot of ours came from where I live, because it's where Daniel Boone, or not Daniel, well, we had Daniel Boone, but also we had Lewis and Clark start their expedition here. So everything's named after Lewis and Clark. But
of course,
one of the cool things my first house that I lived in, it was on Blow Street, which is really funny, but it was actually named after the girl who started kindergarten, like who founded kindergarten for at kindergarten that we know today, like public school kindergarten. It was named after her.
Oh, that's really cool.
Susan Blow. That was her name.
Oh,
I just like that because it was like at first I was like, oh, this is just like a funny name. And then someone was like, oh, wait, yeah, don't you know, like she's from here, like she grew up like in that area. So they just named this street after her. And I was like, oh, so I'm casually living on the street named after someone. That's the reason that we have kindergarten.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
We were the second to last battle in the Revolutionary War, so we have that.
Hey, that's a big one.
But my town's name is Manahawkin, named after a Lenape tribe. So my history goes back even further.
Absolutely. We just go back to like Lewis and Clark.
Anyway, so the in 1955, the CNW also named one of their streamlined passenger trains the Kate Shelley 400, which made her one of the first women to have a train bear her name, which is super cool. So she's also an inspiration for women. She also, kind of set some landmarks in feminism history. And in her courage and determination, continued to inspire numerous generations, reminding all of us that a single act of bravery can change the course of history. Unfortunately, though, her life really didn't become much easier after her heroism. She continuously battled illness, poverty, and she had to fight to keep her family land. The whole reason why the train accident was prevented was because of her life on that land, and she had to fight really hard to keep it, which is a sad aspect of her life. And then she died in 1912 at the age of 48. And it's actually said that the birth date, which is listed on her gravestone, is incorrect, which is an interesting note.
But also, like, small town Iowa, can you hook a girl up and, like, maybe just give her the deed to her own land?
I know, right?
They want people, like, you're going to stop a train, but you ain't gonna give her the deed to her own land.
But she's still celebrated today, and I would like to thank, most of my information came from Kate Shelley Publishing, which is tentatively launching a book. I don't know if they have a date soon, but they will be publishing a book about her and her story, which is really cool.
That is so cool. That is also perfectly timed, but also I feel like, we're going to need more details, book writers. We're going to need that book as reading professionals.
Well, that is the end of our Kate Shelley story. And just to close out today, it goes without saying that quite a bit of media coverage today is filled with unfortunate transportation disasters. But rail in particular has held numerous headlines in this past year. According to the most recent data from the National Safety Council, railroad deaths totaled 893 in 2021, a 20% increase from the 2020 revised total of 744, which was the highest since 2007. And this is all post-COVID, and this doesn't even count 2022, where we saw, kind of the major most disasters. Not that the East Palestine is kind of, on everyone's minds lately. So it goes beyond injuries and death. It's definitely an issue that we face in this industry. Non-fatal injuries totaled 5,781, which is a 4% increase from the 2020 revised total of 5,544. From 2020 to 2021, fatalities at highway rail crossings increased 21%, and fatalities involving other types of incidents increased by 20%. 617 deaths were attributed to trespassers, and 11 employees were killed while on duty, equal to the 2020 death toll. And there were 6 train passenger deaths, up from 2 deaths in 2020.
I feel like, if anything, the whole reason that we have my hot theory on why we have so many tran issues is maybe, we just casually start investing in rail infrastructure because we've been kind of putting that off as a country.
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. But no, I cannot thank those rail drivers enough. I have some friends that are worked in the railroad industry, and it's not an easy job, and it's not great. So there are highs, and there are some pretty low lows. So I'm always very appreciative to those rail drivers. And also just stop at railroad crossings, guys. It's not that deep. You can wait.
But please bring us up on a high note give us some fun bridge facts and train facts.
Well, as you know, it is me, and I do love a good fun fact. So I have a hot bridge fun fact for you that you may or may not know because you're the queen of history.
You might actually take the fun fact of the day because mine is really sad, and this has just been a very sad story.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I got it. So you've played Monopoly, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you know the infamous B&O Railroad. That is a thing.
Yep.
So there's a real railroad, obviously. And it was constructed in Maryland, and it allegedly the bridge got its name in honor of Charles Carroll, which is a nice shout out to anyone that is really into National Treasure like I am. Mm-hmm. Charles Carroll is the last living signer of the Declaration of Independence. And so he was a director at the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, the B&O Railroad. And so he actually laid that cornerstone for the Carrollton Viaduct on July 4th. And the construction was completed the following year. So he kind of like started that giant stone archway, kind of like a really big archway you'll see out of like Aristocats or something. It's like the thing, but it's got a train on top of it. And yeah, I know I just referenced a Disney movie. It's fine.
We talk about that offline, but I don't think the viewers are going to know that imagery in Aristocats.
Okay, well, it's a stone archway, and it has a giant bridge, or it has a railroad that goes on top. But it's like a very large stone archway. And actually, at that time when that bridge was done, so in 1828, when that bridge was constructed, it was the very first one of its kind that was curved and long, made out of stone. Like it was the first of its kind, and it's actually still standing today. And it still carries freight. It still carries passenger cars. It is still standing, which I mean is a testament to that time and the craftsmanship of the masonries at that time. But also not me in, doing some light research for this episode, looking for a really good fun fact, that I don't encourage anyone to Google bridges from like the 1800s because they are terrifying. They are terrifying. Like the fact that a giant train is going over some like rickety stuff. It's terrifying, not gonna lie.
And if you want to know more about the B&O Railroad and the history, you can go to FreightWaves Classics, and we have a whole little summary of that. That's really interesting. That railroad has a cool start, and it was the very first commercial transportation, started 196 years ago.
Well, the Thomas Viaduct it all comes back to National Treasure, and that's the Thomas Viaduct that was named in honor of Charles Carroll.
We should just have a fun fact off one day.
We really should, and I'll be able to tie 90% of it back to National Treasure.
Probably. All right. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We got more than just one fun fact of the day. You got a bunch. And you can follow me on Twitter at JakelBrielle, and to see what else we have going on at FreightWaves Classics. And you can also email me at bjakel@freightwaves.com, and tune in 2 weeks for our next episode on FreightWaves TV, or listen to the show wherever you get your podcasts.